Okay, so we're back and ready to really dig into Chapter 8 of Frankenstein.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah, because now we've got the creature out there on the loose,
Right.
and now we're going to see what happens.
Yeah, we're dealing with the aftermath of murder.
Yeah,
which is...
a murder that Victor knows about.
Right.
But he's keeping quiet.
Exactly.
And we're seeing it all through Victor's eyes, which is very interesting.
Yes, very interesting. We get to be in his head as he's watching this trial unfold.
Yeah.
And he's watching this innocent woman...
Justine.
Yes, Justine, be wrongly accused.
Right.
And he's paralyzed by fear and guilt.
And Shelley does such a brilliant job here.
I know.
Of showing us how flawed the justice system really is.
Yes, it's a wretched mockery of justice, as Victor himself puts it.
Right. And it just shows how easily people can be swayed by just appearances and circumstantial evidence.
Absolutely. I mean, think about the evidence against Justine. She's out all night. She's seen near where the body's found.
Right. And then they find that miniature portrait.
Oh, of the murdered boy?
Yeah, in her pocket.
Right.
Like, come on.
But it all just builds this damning case.
Yeah, it's all circumstantial, but it's enough.
Right. And it makes you wonder, if you were sitting in that courtroom, would you have believed her?
Right. Especially when you think about the social context. I mean,
oh, absolutely.
This is early 19th century.
The fear surrounding this crime.
Right.
And the community. They want answers.
They want somebody to blame.
Exactly.
And then you add in the power of the church.
Right.
I mean, religious authority.
Absolutely.
Had so much influence.
Huge influence at the time.
So it's a very...
complex.
Yeah, complex situation.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating.
And then, of course, we have that shocking moment.
Oh, my God.
When Justine confesses.
I know.
It's a complete shock to Victor.
And the reader.
And the reader, of course.
Why would an innocent person confess?
Right. Well, she explains that she was pressured by her confessor.
Oh, yeah?
Threatened with eternal damnation if she didn't admit guilt.
It's just...
That's a lot of pressure.
It's really heartbreaking when you read her explanation.
It is.
Because you see how trapped she feels.
Absolutely. And it highlights the power the church had, especially over women.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to make these impossible choices.
And it makes you think about Justine's character, too.
Yes.
She's always been portrayed as this moral, a good
person.
Kind person.
The one who nursed Victor's aunt back to health.
Right.
Cared for her own sick mother.
Yeah.
Devoutly.
But none of that seems to matter now.
No. It's overshadowed by fear and prejudice and this forced confession.
Even Elizabeth, who is like Justine's biggest supporter.
Right, who believes wholeheartedly in her innocence.
Yeah.
She can barely even reconcile it.
Yeah, she's just, devastated.
It's so sad. It really shows how individual voices could just get completely silenced.
And through it all, we have Victor.
Yes, Victor, the one who actually knows the truth.
Right, but he says nothing.
Nothing.
He's so afraid of being labeled a madman.
Of course.
And it's this silence.
Yes.
That really drives home those core themes.
Absolute.
Guilt, responsibility, the consequences of ambition.
And it all comes back to him.
It does.
He created this monster.
Right. Literally.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
And now Justine's paying the price.
And he's just carrying this around.
Yeah.
This horrible knowledge.
He describes it as the fangs of remorse tearing at him.
Yeah.
It's like he's trapped in his own personal hell.
He can't speak the truth.
He can't escape it.
No.
And the worst part is, this is just the beginning of his torment.
Oh, yeah.
This is just the start.
Things are about to get much worse.
Much, much worse.
And that's where we'll pick up next time.
Yes. We'll delve further into the consequences of Victor's actions.
And explore the psychological toll this all takes on him.
Exactly.
So stay tuned.
We'll be back soon.
We'll be back.
To continue our deep dive into Frankenstein, and knowing he's the cause of all this, Victor decides to visit Justine in prison.
I mean, you can't even imagine, right?
Oh, that's just heartbreaking.
She's facing execution.
For a crime she didn't commit.
And yet, somehow she seems to find this sense of peace about it.
Almost an acceptance.
I know.
She even tries to comfort Elizabeth.
I know, it's amazing.
Telling her to live and be happy and,
make others happy.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It really speaks to the strength of Justine's character.
It does.
That she's not consumed by bitterness or anger or,
She forgives her accusers.
Exactly.
It's like she's reached this higher level of understanding.
It's really a testament to her faith and her compassion.
Which is in such stark contrast to Victor.
Oh, absolutely.
He is just drowning in guilt.
Consumed by it.
He even describes himself as carrying a hell within him.
Yeah, there's no escape for him.
And you know this scene in the prison?
Yeah.
It's so well written.
Oh, it's masterful.
You have Justine, innocent, resigned.
Right.
You have Victor, just burdened by guilt, unable to act.
Completely paralyzed.
And then Elizabeth,
Oh, poor Elizabeth.
caught in the middle.
Just trying to hold on to her belief in Justine in
Yeah.
the face of all this.
It's just emotionally devastating.
It is. It really is. And then, of course,
The inevitable happens.
Justine is executed.
For a crime she didn't commit.
It's just a crushing blow.
It is. It really underscores the whole tragedy
And the far-reaching consequences.
of Victor's action.
Of Victor's actions, exactly. And it becomes a turning point, I think, for both Victor and Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Victor is pushed even further into isolation and despair.
You can see the horror of his creation is really starting to sink in now.
Yeah. He's realizing it's not just about the murder itself.
No.
It's the ripple effect.
Right.
It's all the innocent lives that are being destroyed.
And for Elizabeth.
It's just a shattering loss of innocence for her.
Yeah.
I mean, her faith in humanity is completely shaken.
How could it not be?
And the saddest part is she realizes that even the most virtuous people can be victims of a system that's corrupted by fear and prejudice.
And this tragedy doesn't just affect them.
Oh, no.
I mean, the whole family.
The entire family.
Plunged into mourning.
Their home is just shrouded in grief.
Yeah. And Victor, in his narration, even hints that.
Uh-oh.
There's more tragedy to come.
This is just the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
The dark path that lies ahead for Victor.
And everyone he loves.
It's terrifying.
And it just makes you wonder, right? Like, how can Victor ever come back from this?
Yeah, how can he possibly atone for all this devastation?
I mean, he unleashed this.
And that question of atonement, it really becomes this driving force for the rest of the book, you know?
Yeah.
It gets at those deeper moral and philosophical questions that Shelley is exploring.
Like, can we ever really escape the consequences of our choices?
Exactly. And can we ever really forgive ourselves for the harm we inflict?
Even if it's unintentional.
Especially if it's unintentional. And I think that's part of what makes Frankenstein so powerful.
Yeah.
Even all these years later.
It's so relevant.
It forces us to confront these really uncomfortable truths about ourselves.
About human nature.
About our ambition, our flaws, our capacity for both good and evil.
Yeah.
It makes you think, are we any better today at, anticipating the consequences of our actions?
Right. Do we ever stop to think about the ethical implications of what we're doing?
Or are we all just driven by the same kind of blind ambition that consumed Victor?
Right.
And Chapter 8 really highlights this,
It does.
It puts a spotlight on the power of truth.
And the responsibility that comes with knowledge.
Victor, he has the knowledge of Justine's innocence, but he's paralyzed by fear.
He can't speak up.
And his silence makes him complicit
Yeah.
in her destruction.
It's like knowledge is a burden.
It is. And
Yeah.
for Victor, it's almost unbearable.
And it brings us back to that question that Shelley keeps asking.
But
Right?
fundamental question.
What does it mean to be human?
What are our responsibilities to each other?
To ourselves, to the world.
Exactly. Chapter 8 doesn't give us any easy answers.
No, it doesn't.
But it definitely makes us grapple with these big questions.
About justice and morality.
The struggle between good and evil.
It's such a powerful story.
It is.
And it's a reminder that even in the midst of all this horror,
Yeah.
there's still room for compassion and forgiveness.
For the strength of the human spirit.
So as you continue reading Frankenstein, just keep thinking about these themes.
Yeah, think about guilt, responsibility, redemption.
The Bee's ideas are as timely now as they were hundreds of years ago.
They really challenge us to think about our own humanity.
And the choices that we make.
In a world where knowledge and power are constantly changing.
It's heavy stuff.
It is, but it's important.
So we'll leave you with that to ponder.
And we'll be back soon to dive into another chapter of this incredible book.
See you next time.